Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing another movie review. This movie is a horror film from Ireland, English language, released in the year 2019, directed by Aislinn Clarke, and this film is called The Devil's Doorway. So The Devil's Doorway is about a priest and his assistant. They're travelling to a remote countryside in Ireland where there is a home that caters for abused women. So this home is said to have as harbouring a miracle. And so the nuns that work there are saying that this is happening, and so the priest and his assistant are going to take documented footage and they're going to try and prove that this miracle exists to the church. So when they get there, immediately they realise that things are off. Something is not right about this place, and although they're not getting the evidence to suggest that the miracle exists, they're getting evidence to suggest that something sinister is lurking within this home. So whether or not they are in danger is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on The Devil's Doorway. I will start off with this. This is a found footage horror film, so if you're not a found footage horror fan and you're one of those people that continuously complains about this cliche sort of subgenre, then this movie is not for you. It's not going to win you over because it doesn't really provide anything terribly unique. But I will say that as far as found footage is concerned, this is one of the creepiest found footage horror films that I've seen in quite a while, and that to me is the reason why I would suggest you go out there and watch it if you are a fan of found footage. Now the reason why I'm a fan of found footage is that it's very real. When it's done properly, it almost feels like exactly what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to trick you into thinking that this is footage that you found and that you're not supposed to be watching it, but it is real documented life. And when movies do this very well, case in point Blair Witch Project, I think that when it does it very well, it becomes very scary. But unfortunately for found footage, after that whole novelty of, was the Blair Witch real or wasn't it real, after that kind of novelty wore off, it kind of defeats the purpose of found footage. And that to me, I think that this, although I love the subgenre, don't get me wrong, when it's done properly, I think it's some of the most terrifying cinema you can watch. But after the novelty wears off, I kind of think it defeats the purpose. Is that I think the whole point of found footage is to try and trick the viewer that you're actually watching something you're not supposed to. Now obviously Blair Witch, I never really thought this was real because it wouldn't have hit cinemas and wouldn't have been distributed as widely as it was, but it still had that lingering sort of doubt in your mind. And so that to me is everything that found footage is. But when you know that something is made up, it kind of just defeats the purpose a little bit. And so that's why I think that found footage hasn't really taken, or it has taken off to some degree, but I don't think it really has that same feeling that you have with the Blair Witch, in that that was the first of its type. And that's what really, well, if you're going to be technical, Cannibal Holocaust was the first of its type, but Blair Witch was the first mainstream kind of film that just blew up as far as establishing this horror subgenre. So after that, I just think that when the novelty wears off, the subgenre isn't quite as good, and that's why I think people are starting to get a little bit tired of it, is because it is definitely recycling the same sort of stuff, and this is a subgenre that definitely belongs to the paranormal, is that, jump scares and all that kind of stuff. And so coming into The Devil's Doorway, I was just, initially I was thinking that this is going to be another run-of-the-mill found footage horror film, and I will say that although the actual story is run-of-the-mill kind of stuff, I will say that the creepiness that the atmosphere presents was very impressive, and that's by far the biggest positive to The Devil's Doorway, is that it manages to be a genuinely creepy film, and that is down to the fact that this is set in 1960, and I think that the old-fashioned sort of found footage quality, it creates that really creepy atmosphere. It creates that creepy sense that something is getting under your skin and the hairs on the back of your neck are suddenly starting to stand up. And that is down to not only the fantastic cinematography and the use of the found footage, but it's also down to the fact that this director really knows how to create a horror set piece. There are some moments that really have you on the edge of your seat, and there are some moments that are very, very scary. And so it all adds up to an ending that I thought was very memorable. It was a very sort of sinister sort of ending, and I just thought that the overall story of, whether miracles exist or whether, priests believe in what they preach, and, after a while you start to lose faith in what you're actually believing in. And so that's something that is, noteworthy as far as the story is concerned. I thought the characters were fairly interesting as far as a found footage horror film is concerned, but it really relies on creeping you out. And I think that The Devil's Doorway definitely does that because of the way it's filmed. It's very eerie. I thought the setting of the all-women's home was fantastic. It has a very sinister past, and when you get the sinister past, it all of a sudden evolves the danger that this movie has. And so I thought that was all very, very good. But unfortunately, as I said, The Devil's Doorway, the biggest problem to the film is that the way it tells its story, although there are some very good set pieces of horror, although the atmosphere is fantastic, there are still cliched sort of moments where it's jump scares, where it's people whispering, you don't know where the whispering is coming from. Yeah, that's all stuff you've seen before. And unfortunately, as far as making a film, especially found footage, there's only a few opportunities to create something that you haven't seen before, is because stories, ultimately, you're going to have to recycle something, but it's how you recycle it and what you do with that recycled material. And I think that Ainsley Clark really takes advantage of that recycled material through the quality atmosphere and the really creepy sort of moments that the movie possesses. And so I just think this is another found footage horror film that is very, very memorable. But if you're not a found footage horror fan, then you're not going to like it, so don't even bother. And you're going to find a lot to complain about. But if you are a found footage fanatic like I am, then you're definitely going to appreciate what The Devil's Doorway does. I think this is a lot better than films like Paranormal Activity, where Paranormal Activity relies on jump scares a little bit too much. This movie has its jump scares, has its cliched moments, but it has that genuine creeping sort of presence of the atmosphere that seeps through the screen and makes the viewer feel quite on edge. And so that's everything I want from a found footage horror film, and that's what The Devil's Doorway delivers. And as a result of that, I'm going to give this film 3.5 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.